Thank you so much for joining us on our virtual cocktail class. My name's Leah Murphy. I work in the Office of Alumni Relations, and my job during this work-at-home pandemic situation is to help plan events like these for you guys across the country and across the world. In our last few classes, such as this one, we've had people join from all over the world, which has been incredible because that's not something we can do when I'm typically planning events in person in the US. So I want to welcome all of you and say thank you for joining us. And please know that we offer tons of classes just like this one, and we'll be continuing to do so moving into the future. But enough about that. I want to take a minute to introduce our teacher from Blue Pit Barbecue. This is Christine. And Christine, I'd love to have you talk a little bit about your background and what you do at Blue Pit.
I'm a bartender at Blue Pit. If I didn't know, everyone was from all over the world. Blue Pit is in Baltimore, Maryland. We are a whiskey bar barbecue place, and the Blue Pit name comes from like barbecue pit, as well as we do a lot of work with animal and pit rescues in the area. And it is also named because my boss has a big fat blue pit bull. But we do a lot of different cocktails, and we've been doing a lot of to-go cocktails as well. I have been bartending for about 8 years now. All in Baltimore. Yeah, not much to say, but we have a pretty good little setup here.
Awesome. And what cocktails and mocktails are we going to be making today?
We're going to make a daiquiri, where it's all classic cocktails. A daiquiri, a margarita, and then a whiskey sour with egg white. And then we're going to make the whiskey sour without whiskey, but with the egg white. So, yeah.
That sounds great. Well, feel free to kick us off. Let's learn about whichever cocktail you choose to do first.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start with a classic daiquiri. I've got some simple syrup here, some lime juice, and a bottle of plantation rum. A daiquiri is a classic rum cocktail. A lot of people refer to like strawberry daiquiris, and which is generally frozen, but it really is just rum, sugar, and lime to make a classic daiquiri. It is 2 ounces of rum, and then 3/4 of an ounce of both lime juice and simple syrup. And if you've never made simple syrup before and you're cocktailing from home, it is just, you do a 1-to-1 rum and sugar, or not sorry, sugar and water. Just put as much sugar as hot water's in there, put it on the stove, and you can make a lot of cocktails with just simple syrup and juice and bitters. I've certainly been learning to make things at home myself since the whole quarantine. And then ice. This is just our regular shaker that we use, but I also wanted to show that for people playing on 2 cups, you can use a mason jar. You can use anything that is closed to give a good shake.
We did get a question. What's the measurement for the simple syrup? So we know it's a 1-to-1 sugar to water ratio, but how much should we be putting in?
3/4. 3/4 of an ounce. It is 2 ounces rum, 3/4 lime, 3/4 simple. And then you can kind of, if you're using something like this, it's pretty easy to strain just between 2 cups. And that is your daiquiri.
Looks delicious. And so I know that this one's not frozen.
No.
Would want to freeze it, how would they do that? Or how does that usually work?
So a frozen daiquiri, we don't do a lot of frozen drinks in-house, but from my own experience, making them for myself, I would just do that same setup, and you can, instead of shaking it, you can throw some ice in there, and that should dilute it. Not too much ice though. Maybe probably like a fourth of a cup of ice, and that should give it a pretty good consistency. But make sure not to shake it or it's going to be too diluted. But yeah, if you put that in a blender, work out well for you. And you could always, if you want to get fancy with it, if you have like a different syrup, maybe if you have like a strawberry syrup, you can make a strawberry daiquiri, or we have like a raspberry syrup. You can get creative with it. This is just a classic daiquiri. But yeah, there's plenty of variations. And it is a very simple, very refreshing drink. And now, go ahead and clear this out. Now for a margarita, I did not bring any salt up, but some people salt the glass and people don't. That's pretty common. But it is only 1.5 ounces of tequila. And it's a simple syrup again. It is, again, 3/4. 3/4 simple. 3/4 lime juice. And just a 1/2 ounce of triple sec. You can use triple sec, you can use orange curacao just as well. I've seen people also just use orange juice in a pinch. Any of those work? Nothing wrong with any of that.
I've seen some people use sugar instead of salt on their rim. Is that?
You know, I do prefer a sugar rim to a salt rim. And yeah, to rim a glass, you just dip the rim in water or simple syrup, and then just put it in a little thing of salt, and it should stick. It could be tricky to get a good salt rim, but they also they sell like lime salt, which is fun and pretty easy to make as well. Which is just you put lime juice and some salt together, and you give it a really good shake, and you'll maybe let it sit for a little bit, and that goes great. Or sugar.
We just got a comment from Tim who says, it's tough to pour a drink with the salt already on the glass rim. So I imagine maybe that's something that comes with practice. Yeah,
I agree, Tim. But yeah, no, it's a little bit of practice, but and if a little bit of the salt gets into the drink, well, that's okay. Worst things have happened. I'm gonna give this a good shake.
We have another question asking about what's a coin margarita, C-O-I-N. Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Maybe we can get some elaboration on that, maybe where you've heard it, and we can figure out what that might be.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give this another strain. that is, you can throw a lime in there, or I guess it's salt rim. We do a lot of strawberry margaritas here, where we replace the simple syrup just with our strawberry simple syrup. It is another. I mean, these are just classic cocktails, which is why they kind of have a similar build. A classic cocktail build is 1 part liquor and then 1 part sweet. So simple syrup, or sometimes with a margarita, we use agave syrup. And then 1 part lime juice, lemon juice, grapefruit juice, something acidic. A lot of drinks are built on that recipe. It's hard to go wrong. And I will do, now this is probably my favorite one.
We did get a question here about the measuring cups that you're using. Are those all standardized at 1.5 ounces, or
They are, yeah.
Does that work?
This one it's 2 ounces on this side and 3/4 an ounce on this side. I mean, you can find these at any cocktail or any cocktail kit. And yeah, these are the most more professional bartending. They're called jiggers, and they're usually 2 ounces to 3/4. But you can also just use a measuring cup.
The group would
Got
like
a lot of these classes for people who just have no cocktail setup at all. So I've been trying to learn all little tips and tricks.
And
I really like the
how much ice do you recommend in that last drink?
What's that?
How much ice do you recommend in that last drink?
I just, for that one, see, I did it, I just filled this glass with fresh ice. But to shake it, this is probably about a cup. I put probably almost a cup of ice in here to shake it. And then you can just fill the cup and just strain it over it. Yeah, I mean, ice is really just up to your taste. But usually when we make margaritas, we have a cup about this size, and we just shake it, pour it right into there with top off of ice. You can also make margaritas. You can make them, so the margarita's on the rocks and the daiquiri is up. You can make either way. Some people order daiquiris on the rocks as well. But this drink, generally you have to do up because it's got an egg white in it. And this is going to be a whiskey sour. I love a good whiskey sour. It is 2 ounces of whiskey. We have our Four Roses is our house whiskey, but you can use anything you want. But Four Roses is a real good brand. Now we use lemon juice, and this is another 3/4. And I can put all the recipes in the chat. 3/4 lemon juice and 3/4 simple syrup. Now the fun thing about this one is the egg. And I already put my egg whites aside here, but this is just the egg white from one egg. Now, when you shake this one, you have to do it once without ice to get the egg into the mixture. So it's called a dry shake. It's kind of a wet shake right now, but so that makes it, I'm going to show you, without the ice, that gives it already some froth, but it still needs to be diluted. So then you get another big old scoop of ice. There we go. And So putting an egg white in a sour doesn't change the flavor at all, but it changes the texture of the drink. And the texture of a sour is very light and fluffy. As you can see, there's a little foam head on a whiskey sour. And it is very fluffy and very tasty with an egg white. If no one's ever had an egg white sour before, I definitely suggest trying it before judging it. A lot of people think it's a strange thing, but it is definitely a cocktail favorite. And to garnish that, you can use a lime, but I have just a little cherry, immediately eaten by the foam. And that is our whiskey sour. You can see the little gradient there.
So that seems like something I'm going to try to use to impress people at our upcoming parties when we can actually have parties.
There you go.
It seemed like it's actually that difficult.
It is not. And that was what I was going to say was also, if you don't drink, this is my favorite is a mocktail as well. And you can do the exact same thing with, so I would do just the exact same, do a little bit of simple, a little bit of lemon, and then your egg white. Yeah, the egg white's definitely a trick to look fancier, and it works.
And we have someone wondering whether you can use the bottled egg white versus a regular egg.
You said, I'm sorry?
We have someone wondering if you can use the bottled egg white. So you know how you...
Yeah. Yeah, egg white is egg white. Usually it is about 3/4 of an ounce. Usually, depending on the size of the egg, they're a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce egg white. And yeah, no, egg white is egg white. You can use whatever you got. Yeah, those I cracked before, so you guys didn't have to watch me do that. But yeah, we just have a big thing of eggs that sits in our little cooler next to all of our juices because they're still, even now, still pretty popular. As soon as we opened up our patio, people were immediately asking for egg white cocktails. So makes you feel fancy.
And just a reminder to all our attendees that if you have any types of general cocktail questions, anything you want to know, drop it into the chat and we're answering those as we go along. And we'll take a couple minutes for Q&A at the end of this too.
Happy to answer any questions.
What's your personal favorite cocktail, Christine?
I'm a big fan of the sour.
Okay.
Myself, I mean, actually, the sour and the daiquiri are two of my favorites, and they're very easy to make at home, and that helps because I've been spending a lot of time at my home, as everyone else has.
Yes.
So yeah, they're deceptively simple to make. Simple syrup you can make as long as you have sugar, lemon and lime juice, and booze, egg. But yeah, they're if you can't go out and drink at the bar, just bring the bar to you.
And just for the crew who's tuning in, the reason we chose all of these cocktails is because we understand that we're not all cocktail enthusiasts. We may not have a million ingredients at home. So we wanted to give you guys some cocktails that you could whip up with pretty much what you typically have on hand or what you could grab at the grocery store or at the 7-Eleven next to your house. And just kind of a summer staple. We have a question about tequilas, agave liquors, mezcal. What's the differences between all of those, or how do you choose one?
Like the difference between tequila and mezcal?
and agave liquor.
Oh, okay. They're all made from agave. They are both agave liquors. And it's just a different process of making them. They're like whiskey is a lot of times barreled, and mezcal definitely has the more smoky flavor. I honestly, I'm not quite as versed on making tequila and mezcal as I am whiskey, but they are both agave liquors, and it's just a difference in process and barreling and aging. And also, yeah, if you ever wanted to make a margarita you can make a margarita with mezcal as well, which is definitely one of my favorite. I'm not always a huge tequila fan, but mezcal margaritas are pretty good.
That's awesome. Robin wants to know if you have a favorite cocktail to make and a least favorite cocktail to make.
Yeah, I do like these egg white cocktails. I really like making them. They can be a little bit of a pain in the ass if it is real busy and someone orders a whole lot of them. But they are fun, and they are probably my favorite thing to make. My least favorite to make, it's always a gamble making somebody a Long Island iced tea, because then they're gonna drink it, and then I have to worry what's gonna happen next. But there's no cocktails that are really particularly hard to make. So, but I would say that's probably my least favorite. And I like making when I make cocktails. Like I've put cocktails and stuff on the menu here at Blue Pit. I always like screwing around with the egg white cocktails because they're fun and they look fancy and they're easy. They're very easy to make.
We have another question about the large ice cubes that you would see in like an old fashioned or something like that. Do you guys at Blue Pit use those big ice cubes for any of your cocktails?
We do not. We have these. We have like an ice maker that specifically makes these like very square, kind of cutesy ice cubes. But there's a couple ways that those are made. I know that there is a like basically something that compresses the ice into that shape. At home, though, you can get a lot of like ice.
They're molds almost, right?
Yeah, there's molds, and I have one myself where it's just two parts, and you fill up half of it, you put on the top, and you put the water into the top, and then it makes you a little round spherical piece of ice. And again, it's a easy way to make yourself and your cocktails look so fancy when you are not. But yeah, no, those molds are really nice for home.
And is there any benefit to using that large ice cube rather than, just the kind that comes out of your freezer?
So the smaller the ice is, the quicker it's going to melt. So it will, like, usually if it's, as long as you use the larger pieces of ice, it's not a big deal. It would make a difference. Like, I don't think it melts too much quicker than like this ice, because this ice is pretty large. But like if you put crushed ice in a drink, it melts entirely too quick. So, you never want to make like a crushed ice old fashioned. But yeah, no, it does. The bigger the cube, the longer it takes to melt. So that is nice, especially with like classic cocktails like old fashions and Manhattans, which is why they use those for those.
Awesome. Hey, we got a really cool tip here from Sarah. She said if you're vegan or you don't want to have raw egg white, she used the juice from a can of chickpeas and it foams up just the same way.
That is absolutely true. Yeah, that is a fun little tip. I've done that once for somebody unfortunately not here, but at my house, and that was it did work. It looked just the same, if not maybe fluffier. And it again is flavorless. Just adds like a little texture.
And can you remind us one more time, if you don't have a simple syrup, a bottle of simple syrup at home, what's that ratio to make your own simple syrup?
Oh, it's just 1-to-1. It's like one cup of sugar to 1 cup of hot water, and then just put it on your stove and let it melt. Or you can do 8 ounces to 8 ounces. It just has to be 1-to-1 with sugar and water.
Awesome. And then
you can do the same with if you make a simple syrup like that. You can throw in mint. You can throw it over strawberries and make different flavored simple syrups, which is fun and something I've had to learn to do again since bars have been closed.
That sounds like it would be delicious just over like a seltzer water or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one question emailed in earlier. The person was wondering if you want to lighten the amount of liquor that you put into a cocktail, how can you make sure that then the cocktail ratios don't get all wonky? Adjust them accordingly, or?
Yeah, I would just adjust them accordingly. And there are websites for that if you have a little trouble with math, like sometimes I do. But if you put in, God, I wish I remembered the website off the top of my head, but there, you just adjust it, if it's got 2 ounces and you want to do an ounce of rum and a daiquiri, just do half the amount of the other 2. And yeah, there are websites that'll, if you want to put weird amounts, that'll just do the math for you, which is great. And of course, also all of these are just like the standard builds, and I've met plenty of people who like their margarita sweeter or their their daiquiris less sweet. So if you want to mess with it yourself, if you want a little more lime or a little more sugar, no shame.
I love it. I'm a team sweet, so I understand that.
Yeah.
Ice in the whiskey sour. We're catching up. So should she be putting ice in the whiskey sour?
So generally with the whiskey sour, it is served up. You can do it, if you do it with, you can do anything on the rocks if you want it on the rocks. This is usually how we serve it just because it looks fancy, but you can absolutely put it over ice if you like. And you can, you also, if you hate the idea of an egg white, you can do those same proportions, 1.5 ounce whiskey, 1/2 ounce lime, or 1/2 ounce lemon, 1/2 ounce simple syrup, and it will still be good. We have a lot of people who are scared by the egg white, so we just do it without the egg white, same proportions, great drink.
Awesome. We have another great question that I didn't think of, but wished I had. How does the flavor change in a drink when you use a lighter versus a darker version of a liquor?
It depends on the liquor. Different, usually like light rum, dark rum. There are 2 different types of rum, so they have different flavors. Jamaican rum is generally a little like funkier, and spiced rum is spiced rum. That's and then we just use white rum for most of our drinks, which adds the least amount of change to the flavor of the drink.
Got it.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing, like golden tequila and silver tequila. It's just a little bit of a difference of flavor. It's how long they're aged in barrels, or if they're aged in barrels. Usually the darker something is, the longer it was in a barrel. It's a rule for whiskey. So it really, I like a good silver tequila and I like dark rum. So I don't really know if there's a method to the madness. You just got to try things and see if you like them. But like this rum is great, but I would never use it for we have people who order rum old fashions. And usually that's when you go for the darker, funkier rums.
Cool. In my house, we have a whatever's in the liquor cabinet is what we use rule. So there you go. If we have light rum, we use light rum.
Yeah, no, you can use whatever you want. If you bought it and you like it, I would use it. And also, just for the record, there's sour drinks Like this is a whiskey sour, but after the whiskey sour, they have gin sours, vodka sours. So you can really use this build to make anything. You can get creative with it, and I have. Gin sour is one of my also favorite drinks that I highly suggest if you like gin.
Sounds delicious. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? Oh, okay. What else can you use egg whites in? What other kind of cocktails do you like to make with egg white?
So there's a lot of different sours, and I've made a lot of cocktails that are kind of variations of sours. But another one that's really fun is flip, doing a whiskey flip, or you can do a whiskey flip, you can do a gin flip. But the idea of a flip is that it has the egg white and also a little bit of cream, or a lot of times we use coconut milk here, so it's still like vegan or vegetarian if someone's into that, and also because it's a good consistency. We use coconut milk in a lot of stuff here, but we've had a couple of flips on our menus, and they're probably my other favorite egg white drink. There are also flips that use the whole egg, and that is kind of brings it out to like an eggnog consistency, which might not be great for summer, but in the winter, they're good.
All right, the last one from Chris. He's dying to know whether you know what a pawn shop whiskey sour is.
I don't. I'm so sorry.
Now I want to know. Chris, you'll have to Google that and share it with the group.
Pawn shop whiskey sour. Got to look that up.
And then for a gin sour, you just mentioned a gin sour.
Yes.
Use the original London dry gins or the newer botanical type.
Again, I mean, you can use whichever you like. I always like really kind of floral kind of gins myself, but you can use whatever you got. If you whatever you normally drink. With these, it is all about. If you're making it for yourself, then it's about what you like. So I would, anything works. I would always go with the more botanical for me. But we could, you can use a dry gin, absolutely. We have a pink gin from a local distillery. That's fun. Those are usually more botanical as well.
All right, I've got one question for you, and then we're going to wrap it all up. And this was actually a very good one to end on. For someone who's looking to begin building out their liquor cabinet or their liquor shelf of any sort, what are some key sort of versatile liquors that you would recommend, or versatile ingredients that you would recommend to have on hand?
Definitely, you need your juices. You need some Angostura bitters. Always, if there's any, there's a lot of different flavors of bitters out there too. At my home bar, I have like the walnut ones, and I make a lot of old fashions for myself. So I would get at least the Angostura bitters. The orange bitters are always good to have as well. But other than that, I would say simple syrup, lemon juice, lime juice, and then you're always going to want like a good bottle of whiskey. I'd say whiskey, tequila, vodka or gin. I'm a big fan of having a bottle of whiskey for mixing drinks and a bottle of whiskey for sipping.
Great. All right.
Mezcals are also they're a staple in mine.
That's awesome. Thank you. My husband's starting to build ours, but we need to invest in some of those because we don't have some of those things in our liquor cabinet. All right, we are going to wrap it all up because we've been here for a little bit, and I think everybody should have their cocktails made at this point. So I hope you are enjoying sipping them at home while we're wrapping up here. Would you mind sharing with us the name of the restaurant you work at again, and maybe the address and where people can find you guys?
Yeah, of course. It's Blue Pit Barbecue in Baltimore, Maryland. We are on 1601 Union Avenue, right by Hamden, if you're local to Baltimore. And our website is bluepitbbq.com. Yeah,
And you're Christine, correct?
I am Christine.
Yes. And guys, Blue Pit was first on my list to choose for this class because it's actually one of my personal favorite restaurants. I think we've been getting takeout from there like every other week or so since this all started. So highly recommend, if you are local to the area, that you go and check out their food. Try the jackfruit because it's unexpected and delicious.
Vegan barbecue is a hard thing to master, but they've done it.
All right. Well, thank you everybody so much for joining us. We're going to get you these recipes and this recording in a follow-up email. And if you have any other questions, you can always email me at lmurphy@jhu.edu, and I will be sure to bounce them over to the crew at Blue Pit for answering.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.